If I could begin on the question of Syria. The government has been watching carefully recent developments in Syria and responses from across the international community, including with our ally, the United States. I've noted carefully what President Obama has said as this recent event is one which he and the government of the United States is viewing with grave concern. The Australian government views this development with equal concern. Yesterday I spoke with the Secretary-General of the United Nations about actions in the Security Council. The Secretary-General and I discussed the role which, of course, we are playing in the Council on this most important question before the international community at present. This goes to whether chemical weapons have been used, if so, who used them, and, furthermore, could they be used again? These are serious matters for the entire international community. Furthermore, this morning I've spoken with the US Ambassador to Australia, Ambassador Bleisch. I've also spoken with the Secretary of the Prime Minister's Department. As a result of those discussions, I have agreed with the Secretary of the Prime Minister's Department that later today I will go to Canberra and be briefed by our national security officials on unfolding developments and work with officials on any possible and appropriate Australian response depending on the nature of the brief concerned. We are still establishing the facts. We have, together with the United States, grave concerns as to what has occurred here. But as I said yesterday, it's important that we establish all facts first and in a calm and considered way respond as appropriate. Consistent with the Caretaker Conventions, I will of course request the Secretary of the Prime Minister's Department to make equal national security official briefings available to Mr Abbott, the Leader of the Opposition, as is appropriate. These are troubling times in the international community, and we need to focus carefully and squarely on unfolding events and as they affect Australia's core national interests. Today we are here to talk further about the government's initiatives in relation to small business. Small business is a cornerstone of the Australian economy, more than 3 million of them. And 3 million of them who are out there providing employment for about 5 million Australians on a daily basis. And in recent days we've been speaking very much in detail about how we assist small business by removing as much red tape from their backs as possible. We've done that in terms of superannuation, with an extended use of the superannuation clearinghouse for small business. We've done so in relation to government providing a clearinghouse mechanism also for paid parental leave payments. And yesterday I indicated changes in terms of the business activity statement obligations for small businesses now with a change which makes it easier for a total of more than 1.135 million small businesses across Australia to deal with their GST compliance obligations. The reasons we are doing all of this is to make it easier for small business to go out there and engage in economic activity, build their businesses, build them into medium businesses, and some of those to be built into big businesses, earning income for their families, and of course building the overall Australian economy. Of course, one of the other pillars that small business can rely upon in the future will be the national broadband network. And I'm pleased today to be joined by our candidate here in North Sydney, Peter Hayes, but also by Ed Husick, the Parliamentary Secretary for Broadband, himself a champion for what broadband can do for the business community, particularly small businesses in regional areas and outer suburban areas like Western Sydney. This is a liberating technology. The bottom line is, whether it's upload or download speeds, Both are important for small businesses to be able to operate in locations right across our country, to find new markets, to move information, and on top of that also to be able to do their businesses better and to boost productivity. The single greatest driver of productivity for small business and business in general for the decade ahead will come from the national broadband network in ways we haven't imagined yet. But it's a bit like imagining how an economy could become more productive if we had a system of motorways or a system of highways or a railroad network when none exist. You've got to have them first before the productivity yield comes in. The same with the national broadband network. It's been exciting today also to see how this affects all businesses, not just in cities and in regional centres, but also in remote locations as well. I'm proud of the fact that we're putting satellites up, which are going to provide the opportunity for people in the most remote parts of Australia to have access to the national broadband network for the first time, liberating people who live out the back of Bourke so that they can participate in the global economy and the national economy more fully. That's why one of the things that we are, of course, will be unfolding is this iwantmynbn.com.au. This is designed to be a guide, a tool for small business and other applications around the country. The whole point is to turn this into your pathway to a more productive business for the future. That's what we want. Make it easier for businesses. If you don't have the information superhighway coming into your business in the future, you're going to be at a disadvantage. If you've got it coming into your business premises in the future, you are going to be at an advantage relative to so many countries around the world, but critically, on the same level as other businesses right across Australia. This is part of the future. 6 years ago, I held up a laptop and said I wanted one of these to be the toolkit, the new toolbox for Australia's young people for the future. And that's why we laid out more than 1 million computers across the secondary school system in the last 5 years or so. This is the next stage, to make sure that through the digital revolution and through applications like this, not just our young people, but all our business people, big, small, medium, and other applications in the health and education sector are entering the digital age, boosting productivity, boosting growth, and providing jobs for the future. To support that, we of course want to make sure that there is going to be a good application of these technologies to the small business sector. If the government is returned, we will create a $10 million Small Business NBN Innovation Fund. This will offer grants to developers of NBN applications that lift small business competitiveness and cut costs. These new applications would be free to small businesses. We want to get behind small business to turbocharge them for the future. The NBN is an economic game changer, and of course under our government we would provide those connections not to the exchange, not to the hub up the street, but to the home, to the premises, to the business premises as well. And bear in mind that many effective small businesses start on the kitchen table out the back with a laptop open and a connection. And that's where so many of the great enterprises are going to be built in this nation in the future. Furthermore, on small business, we're into the overall action of making it easier for small business to work. Also, if the government is returned, we will appoint a small business advisor to the Fair Work Ombudsman. We will also create a Small Business Consultative Council as a subcommittee of the National Workplace Relations Consultative Council to give small business a stronger voice. And we're providing a $200,000 assistance to fund the Council of Small Business Organisations of Australia to undertake research and increase their advocacy on behalf of small business across Australia. These are smaller initiatives, but they're important in the overall fabric of what we're trying to do, because I believe passionately in the future of small business, in driving Australia's economic future. Our job in government is not to tell them what to do. Our job in government is to enable them to do it with the new technologies of the 21st century. And that's why we're proud of these announcements today. Before I take your questions, I'm going to ask our Parliamentary Secretary for Broadband, Ed Husick, to add to my remarks, and then we'll open it to Q&A.
Thanks, Prime Minister. What we've already seen is that businesses that move more in the digital space are twice as likely to be putting people on and hiring. And also we're seeing really positive things happen with their revenue, where annual revenue might be up 20%. This is a big deal for businesses, small businesses, particularly in regional areas, particularly in parts of Sydney that I represent, out in Western Sydney. Seeing them healthier, operating healthier is a big deal. But we also know that there's a bit of reluctance from small businesses getting engaged, and this, in terms of what the Prime Minister's announced, will open the door for them to step from an analogue world to a digital one, to be able to hire more people, have a healthier bottom line, and improve the viability of local communities that want to see more small businesses in their area. And we've got to be ready. We've got a big challenge ahead of us. Worldwide, data is expected to grow between 2009 and 2020 by 4,300%. So we need a good network in place that can make sure we can deal with that. And you can see some of the drive in that data production here today, where, for example, a person at home who needs medical assistance wants to be able to get onto a video link, be able to operate diagnostic equipment and get help when they need it. This is what the NBN will allow. The faster upload speeds, the faster download speeds, and be able to handle the range of things we want to do. So we want to be able to see that across the community, but particularly in terms of small business. And what's been announced today will be great news for getting smaller business more engaged in the digital space.
Thanks very much, Ed. So my concluding comment is just this. If you value broadband, then you must vote for the National Broadband Network, and therefore you must vote for the government's return. It's pretty basic. With us, you get a first-class, world-class broadband network, high speeds, affordable, universal access. The alternative offers none of that. Over to you, folks.